Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another 52 Topics with Frank Fiorellino live stream. We're hitting you with a lot of content lately. Do us a favor, hit the like, leave a comment in the chat box, and if you really like us, come back after this is over and leave us a comment in the comment section. Look, we'll say hi to some people. Frank, what's going on, buddy?
What's going on, bud? What are you doing?
Same old, same old. Say hi to some people.
Definitely. Who we got up there, bro? We got Mo's there. Who's the jacket? We got Mike Yarney. What's up, Mike? And the lovely Roro. What's up, Roro? Love you, babe. Jared and Carlos Gringo Muniz, my
Hey,
man.
fellas, what's going on? How you doing,
Carlos.
buddy? Roro, Mike Yini, it's the jacket, and we got Rayful up here. Where'd this guy come from?
I don't know.
That's not the Ray.
Rayful, I know.
I don't know if that's a little trolly, but welcome aboard.
Yeah.
So who else we got? We got Big Small. What's going on? All right. So today we got a guest, right, Frank? Who's coming
Absolutely. David, what's going on? Yeah, we do. We have a friend of mine, and very good at. I feel he's one of the better ones at it, but he hasn't been around in a minute, and I'm glad to bring him up. We're going to be asking him some questions, as he would say, the tough questions, I guess, and the not so tough questions. But here he is, and let's get him up here, huh?
Let's welcome Mr. Tom.
Vecchia
of the New Theory podcast. What's going on, Tom? How are you?
Come on down, Tom. Come on down.
Thank you for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be here.
What's up, brother?
Not much. Happy to be here. I'm glad I got the call today. I'm a big fan of the show. As you know, I was commenting that one night, kind of got hooked. And I really like how you guys are doing. You're doing a very nice job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Yeah, where you been, man? That's a $1 million question. I think it's fair to say I'm asking for everybody involved. Yeah. And floor is yours, bro.
Well, it's funny because hey, shout out to Carlos and Sydney's great, by the way, too. So we share a lot of the audience. I actually did kind of a resignation letter, if you will, on their show kind of back when the No Fly Zone, Nelson and Carlos. And the reason for that was, well, there's a few reasons, but I was getting I got over the mob genre because it changed a little bit now. We got some new players. You guys are doing some cool stuff, and I think it's getting a little better actually. But at the time, it just, who was fighting who, and it was always you couldn't debate. If I disagree with, let's say, Brett or you, we have a discussion, whether it be offline, online. You deal with somebody direct. Sometimes I would say something and be 3 shows about you. When you go to deal with the person direct, they're all tough, and then when you go to talk to them, they don't want to talk to you. The empty threats. And at the end of the day, really, to be honest with you, I was doing it for fun, and I wasn't making a lot of money doing it. So I was like, you know what? Let me kind of focus on continuing what I love to do, podcasting, but let me find a better way to make money doing it.
Right. No, I hear you, but I mean, tell us about what you do and what you're good at. And I think you're good at this anyway. But, this is more of a hobby. I always knew this was always more of a hobby. Yeah. And by the way, I feel that you're very good at it. And at it. You've had great guests. But what do you do for a living?
Yeah, it's funny because I was for that reason. I was enigmatic for a reason, because I'll give you a quick example. I remember there was one day where I was doing a business interview. This is when I was really intertwined, mob genre and business. And on the business interview, you say, hey, Frank, where you're from? Where do you, what line of work are you in? It was what's the most money you ever made? Kind of personal, stuff. And you were able to kind of have an open dialogue because it was business. The guy wanted to be, known, and here's what I do and that kind of stuff. And I remember kind of doing a mob genre interview that same day. And the energy was different. Oh, don't call me by my real name. You got to call me by my moniker,
right.
Okay. And then I kind of slipped. I'm oh, so how's over here? Oh, you're doxing me. I just, again, I always look for congruency in life, and just my personality. I want to deep dive. I want to learn. I want to ask questions. And I get there's some sensitivities and stuff you want to protect. But that was kind of the starting point where I kind of said, how do I have a meaningful conversation with somebody if I can't even call them by their first name? That was kind of the start. Well, yeah. So what do I do? So I own a digital marketing and media firm. What that is you have, hey Jesse, you have a business and you might need a website, you might need some SEO, which is Google stuff, public relations, content, that kind of stuff. I was doing a lot of stuff for clients, so I really kind of was doing that for other clients. I was like, oh, let me like kind of throw my hat in the ring. I also own some publications. If you're in New Jersey, I own New Jersey Digest. I own New Theory magazine, kind of like been around a little bit. And then I recently acquired another one called Social Lifestyle magazine. So I kind of have like some publications. I have a media marketing firm. I never super got into like where podcasting and like YouTube. I would do it for people in the service industry, like a plastic surgeon. So you do like his YouTube, he gets one surgery, boob job's $12,000. So like it made sense, So it was a challenge for me to kind of step in front. I'm a behind the scenes guy. So to really step in front of the camera and make like content the way to monetize, that was really new to me. So I'm a digital marketing and media guy, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And so you won't be selling your house now since you got out of the mob genre.
No. Again, the direct money, and I think Brett will tell you there was a little bit of a run where they call it CPM for they paid $4 for every 1,000 views, and in the past you popped the video and make 10,000 the first day, and over to 30 days you maybe at 15,000-20,000, and then maybe do a live, and you kind of aggregate it together. And you made a few bucks, maybe it's some merch if you were big enough, and you aggregated kind of a few bucks. But then the algorithm changed a lot, and that kind of hit everybody's pocket. So for me, I kind of joke around. I said it was like never car money. It was more car insurance money. Now it was gas money. So luckily I found other ways to monetize. So
I mean, that's how I still have to look at it. Honestly, it's another paycheck for me every month, but it's not. It's just a nice bonus. It's a nice paycheck. But I know people get annoyed. Content creators talking shop, but so we won't. But I had this conspiracy in my head, Tom, that YouTube hated me for the longest time. Yeah. And I really believed that. I never complained about it because then they think you're crazy. But then whatever's happening lately, and I spoke about this before, I have about 4 videos on my channel that I did over a year ago. Yeah. And in the last 2 months, every one of those videos have gotten like over 30,000 views each.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Every single one of them. So I don't know what that is due to. Maybe YouTube likes me now. I always thought that YouTube was messing with me because I didn't think there was anything wrong with what I was doing. Thought I was making interesting shit. Yeah. And all of a sudden, it seems to be snowballing for me.
It's like almost a blessing and a curse. I'm the kind of guy who likes to know the why behind things and really kind of tinker to see what's going on. So I kind of have a little bit of an educated theory. It could be right, could be wrong. So probably about like 2-3 years ago, TikTok like cleaned everybody's clock. It kind of to Instagram. We have the attention span of aardvarks. So the short form content just immediately took off. So even people in the 30s and 40s were going over to TikTok. I don't remember the last restaurant that I went to with my wife that wasn't from a TikTok reel, or Instagram. So, obviously YouTube is a multi-billion-dollar a year in revenue. I think 7-8 billion at this point, and they were getting their clock cleaned. So a lot of so another thing I do is I'll buy advertising space on platforms. And I started saying, oh, let me take money away from Google and put it towards, Facebook or whatever that is. So I think a lot of the attention and money went away from YouTube. So 2 things happened. Number one, they came out with Shorts, which the YouTube version of short form content. And they launched it, and they were giving away views. I'm talking, there was one day, my wife and I went to Angelo's in Little Italy, and I think we did a cheers during the feast. It got 10,000 views like that. Like I'm talking, hey, my mustache, how are you, sir? We got to connect soon, my friend, and go for a cigar. But
good guy, Pete.
So, hey, Jeff. So basically, one was the short term for YouTube kind of like took off, and that's where YouTube cared about because they wanted to get those people back. But they weren't paying. It was like a penny for 1,000 views. Right, yeah. We'll have something like 700,000 views and make like $60, right? Then on the regular side, they started lessening people's views because the way they pay is with the advertising money. I was reading like the quarterly statement from Google. Their ad revenue was down. But remember, so if the ad revenue is down and everybody's making more and more videos, they have to spread out that ad revenue and they're going to reward, people that get views, but they couldn't give away as many views because they didn't have the ad revenue for it. So I think when the ad revenue went down and views went up, they came and said, no, we need to have lesser views because we have less ad revenue. And then if you remember, like a year and a half ago, you couldn't buy a view. You know what I mean? The second part is, and Brett probably knows this, is in the now you do like your videos and stuff. You could promote a video, throw $10, $20, $30. Yeah. So they don't want to give you views anymore. They want you to pay for it.
No, gotcha. Yeah, no, it could be very profitable, but it seems like that for me and Brett anyway, this is, we definitely have to go to work every day. We're not going to quit everything and just go into YouTube. I guess it works for some people, maybe one day, but not right now. I got a great question though. Ready? Sure. People ask me this all the time, and your mob stuff. And they talk to me, what's the difference between the Italian mob, and I know you know about this stuff, and the American mob? I get asked all the time. I like to hear your side.
So I'll give a quick answer. So I was very fortunate to I've been in Sicily three times, I believe, and just again I anybody who knows me, I never claim like mob connections in terms of like my family, people married into people, and Sammy's niece and my cousin was married to Riggy and all this other stuff. But like I never like walked around like a tough guy or act like, if anything, my mother, we'll get into later, but my mother kept us away from it. But the best example is I was in Borgetto, Sicily, which is where you're from, Brett. There's probably the largest population of Borgetano outside of Borgetto, where you are.
Is that right? Yeah. I mean, I kind of figured, yeah.
Yeah, that's where you got great cafes and some good restaurants, and they're good people. And they have the feast in Astoria. I think it's like August 17th. I go to that every year. So when I was in Borgetto, when there was two things. The first was I was with somebody, and we happened to go like to like a farm, and the guy's wearing like these dumb waders, like that you wear to go to the water for fishing. But he was like on like the farm, and he was like farming and doing stuff, whatever his field, whatever. But it was muddy, and the guy literally had like mud up from like up to here. And Frank knows when they go to meet you, you present like I'm presenting Tom, like he's from America, he's blah blah blah, and I'm presenting Tom, he's from America, not in a gangster way, just in an Italian kind of respectful way. And I met him, and he just kept asking me about the Bronx. I don't know. He just kept asking me about the Bronx. And he was like fascinated with the Bronx. And then when I leave, the guy that I was with, he's like, that guy is like the area, Padron di Madamente, the local.
The boss.
Yeah. And the second day I was at another guy's house who was in that life. Outside there, nothing going on. But inside, now marble's normal there, so like it's not a big deal. But everything else was like gold, brass was like Amora. He had like the version of the PS5, whatever it was, Nintendo. So there in Italy, one is they're very low key and they don't like flaunt it. Now in Italy, like if they're like, especially back then, if you were connected, you would have a beautiful inside of your house. You would have a nice crystallina. You would have beautiful like silverware. You would have like nice trappings inside. But outside the world, they would drive a Fiat 500 that was 20 years old. And they were so versus America, New York, I know a lot of guys from Brooklyn, Elizabeth, New Jersey, and these guys were the opposite. If they made $1, they had the Cadillac and they had the big thing and they had the chains and they bought houses in neighborhoods they had no money buying in. So the biggest difference is the mob over there tends to be more kind of low key. And more outside in. They care more about having the power and the money kind of like hidden. Versus in the US, they couldn't spend it. They couldn't make it enough to spend it, if that makes sense. And that was one of the biggest differences.
Yeah, they definitely don't want you to know what they're doing. But and if they are from the mountainside, like Tom, that doesn't go away. A redneck don't change the color of his neck. He's always gonna be a redneck. And same thing in Sicily. And it's funny you say that, because I remember being in Sicily in 1990 with my family, and some guy came down to say hi. And I remember my dad as a kid. He was so much coming back to go see my dad that he bought him cheese and the ricotta and all that other stuff. just as a sign of respect or whatever. And this is a well-known guy in my town, and fairly young too.
Yeah.
And he looked like he just came out, like you said, out of a farm, but that's how it is. And he was the main guy, and he still is the main guy. Well,
also, not to cut you off, also, culturally, it's different too. So, for example, there they call them uomini di onore, men of honor, or uomini di onore, men of honor. So when you're an inducted member, you're a man of honor, and you are really supposed to portray yourself in a certain way. So when they found those 10 commandments in Greco's countryside estate, they're true. They're actually not supposed to go to clubs and bars.
No,
they're really not supposed to mess around their wives. Like, there's a lot of stuff, so they're supposed to portray themselves better. And you're a man of honor first, but then there, like, for example, Massimo Di Netto, like, had like a relative who was like a brain surgeon. So there's like judges, lawyers, doctors.
Oh yeah.
That are in the life, because it's part of what you do, and it's woven in the fabric of society, if that makes sense. Almost like a Freemason, where, like, respectfully, not to knock anybody, but a lot of the wise guys here, they got into that life because they weren't academically inclined. You know what I mean? Like, so that's one of the other bigger differences as well.
That's true. And there was a very well-known dentist in my town.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know if he was known for being a dentist, but he's definitely being known for being a gangster. And I'm not going to mention who he is, but all those mobologists know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And he was called the American, or still is.
Yeah.
Because he dressed up in American style and all, but he was made, and he was a high member too. He's a high member now, but there you go. You could go to college and be a gangster. It's not.
Well, there was I don't know if you guys remember, there was that I mean, Brett, you had to see this because they talk about like Whitestone in it. There's that guy Pino. He's from Borgetto actually, and he was like a radio TV guy, and he was a thorn in the side of the mafioso, and he kind of did a whole expose on them, to the point that he exposed Frank Rappa, who they call him the Claw, who lived in Whitestone, was a man of honor from the other side. And subsequently, I think that's why he got deported, because of that documentary. So for
what
example,
year was that about?
I was doing the show with Panisi at the time when it came out. We did a review. So I want to say that was 2021.
What year did it take place, the story, though, when the guy lived in Whitestone? Like, how many was that years?
Oh, no, it was like he just showed him at that St. Anne's feast, or whatever the saint feast is they have, that they walk out the church and do the procession. They had pictures of him there talking to like Isindico, the mayor of Borgetto, and the mayor of like the different, because they would fly people in from Borgetto to like celebrate. And he was here, and they kept showing him on camera, like, from the side. And he did, like, they kind of blew up his spot. So I think that was a reason why he got deported. He's now in Sicily.
And what's his name again, Tom? Because I have to.
Frank Rappa, Rappa.
Okay.
And his son and they called him the Claw, because I think he had like a hand that was like deformed. And his son, which half those guys were from Whitestone, were tripped up in that Gambino roundup about 9 months ago with
oh wow.
So his son was there. He lives in New Jersey, and I kind of had, well, the father is definitely made from over there. He was never, might have been recognized over here, but I don't believe he was made here. And the son, they have him as a Gambino guy made, and that kind of makes sense, because they might have did that as a favor from the Sicilians here. They might have did that, because I don't think they would make a American guy, American Sicilian, make him over there when they have a relationship to Gambino, so they made him here. And a lot of those guys were from Borgetto, and a lot of those guys were from Whitestone.
Yeah. My neighborhood, I mean, I grew up here, so it's just like, I grew up around a lot of Italian kids, obviously, a lot of Greeks. I didn't share any cultural heritage with any of them, but, we were friends, we went to school together. But definitely, I mean, as you know, a lot of guys, I mean, I could fucking literally throw a rock from where I'm living right now and hit one of their houses. So,
and look at Malba. Half the houses in Malba were guys that
even today. But historically, I mean, Carmine Tremonti, Tony Ducks, Tommy Lucchese. I was actually in Tommy Lucchese's house a few months ago. They had an estate sale, for the owners that owned it now. So I got to go in there and take a look. I actually have a video. I put it on my channel that I took it down because I don't know. I didn't want to get mad, but so I got to see what his house looked like. But yeah, this area is historically.
Well, that's a different like beast. I remember a story when Tommy Lucchese, I think he lived down in Long Island as well, if I'm not mistaken, or it might have been Queens, and like a neighbor's son or something was not well, and he picked up the phone and got him in like the Mayo Clinic in Cleveland. Like in a week later, the Mayo Clinic was, like years away, and that's a difference. It was different, and but in Italy, it kind of changed obviously, especially to blow up the judges and that kind of stuff.
Sure,
but it changed, but it didn't, and I always. When I started like kind of last mob content I did, I gotta be careful, but I really was doing a lot on Ndrangheta because they really got their act together. And there's not a lot of informants because they're family. I don't want to rat on my brother's, my sister's brother or husband. I don't want my niece and nephew to be fatherless. I don't want, to rat on my brother. I don't want to rat on my first cousin because his father's my godfather. They'll kill you if they do. So like the way they like there's a great I don't know if you guys follow what was the guy who wrote Gomorrah? Roberto
Savino.
Yeah, Roberto Savino. So Saviano. So
Saviano.
I highly recommend not only watching, he does this whole like college, like it speaks at a college and he talks about like all this different stuff, but he does a really nice one, Antonio Pele, who was an Ndrangheta boss, who wasn't from Ndrangheta, but he found his way in and he rose through the ranks. And he talks about how, like, while the Sicilians were focusing on heroin, and respectfully, not a knock, I lost a family member to heroin. And heroin users are typically like lower socioeconomic. They tend to die, like they don't have a lot of money and, that kind of stuff. And that's where the Sicilians like doubled down on. They controlled that for a while in the U.S. and frankly globally for a while. Where the Ndrangheta did differently. They cornered the coke trade. There's a few reasons for that. They focused on one product. They got it from South America cheap at the time. They corner the market, and what do coke people do? They have a few more bucks, and they come back, and they generally don't die. So that's what brought Ndrangheta for like a $500 million a year entity to a $50 billion a year entity. The way they made their money was kidnapping. They were kidnapping so much that in Corriere della Sera, which is their New York Times, they would have a section called sequester season. So there's a certain season of the year where they would kidnap people, and people would put their family in there so they could collect the ransoms, including John Paul Getty's III's grandson.
They did kidnap him as well. But is it a thing anymore? I don't think they do that.
No, so they stopped kidnapping.
In the 80s, they were known for that.
They stopped kidnapping. Not out of morality, it just didn't fit their business needs. But what they did was they doubled down their money into like public works. They built Gioia Tauro, which is one of the biggest ports now in Italy and growing. And then they basically own the port, so they control the port of entry where the coke is from. And they forged ties with the Mexicans, Colombians, and there's rumors that they're setting up kind of shop down there where they're shipping it out through Peru and Ecuador. So like, vertical integration, horizontal, like they're controlling every which way. And, the Mexicans and the Colombians like them because they have really good money. Exactly. JP, they have really good money. They pay on time and they're serious. They just caught a guy who was a broker for the Colombians and the Camorra in Colombia recently, which is interesting because a lot of people believe that the Italians get it from the Mexicans. I think the Mexicans were brokering, and Italians are cheap. Frank will tell you that, and they want to get a better price. I think they deal directly with the Bolivians and the Colombians.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If they could go right to the source, they will. For sure. Italians have set up pipelines in South America themselves, just to go beat to the punch. But back to like the Calabrese, Nadrogna, whatever. And I don't know much about them, but what's their point of business? It's in North Italy. They don't do much of their
so what made them like very different, and talk a little bit earlier, where when they had their like children who became a banker, who became a a lawyer, who became a syndico, became a mayor, whatever that is, right? So they kind of planted tentacles throughout the world. They operate on 6 continents. So they kind of put their kind of tentacles out there, and the most of their business in terms of commerce, they might import it in Giortato, which is in Calabria, Antwerp, which I think is Netherlands,
Belgium,
and Belgium, and then there's one other, I think Germany, which is another. So they have their ports of entry, but the bulk of the business is in like North Italy and the rest of Italy. And what also separates them apart is they are really good at washing money. That's why there was a massacre of 6 Calabres during a war in Germany. Well, what are they doing in Germany? Because they own like blocks of businesses and they're really good at washing money. That's another thing that kind of separates them from other organizations. It's believed that like more of a Sicilian thing, but Pablo Escobar, worked with the Italians, and he supposedly through intermediaries met with Totorina, and the Sicilians sent people over to help him set up his organization and know-how, and supposedly they really work together. So this is an interesting point. This is a really interesting point. I've had I'm getting all these days. Tony Nicasio. I had him on my show, and we had him on a few times. But one of the times I had him on was the day Leonardo Rizzuto got shot. So there's literally Indrágada in Canada, and the way the Sicilian mafia and the American mafia are cut off, nothing to do with each other, right? The way that the Calabrians work, there's guys in San Luca or guys in different cities that control everything worldwide. They are like multinational and global, but the shots are still called in Calabria in Italy. The only believed in Drini, which is the Colosimo, I forget their name, or Camiso, sorry, is in Canada. And supposedly the only Drini or family that is able to call the shots on their own without having to check in with Calabria. But Calabria has her tentacles in all of the 6 continents. And in Australia, they're very big on MDMA. They do it with the bikers. So
really,
they're really serious people. There's no games. There's no, it's different,
Yeah, I heard somewhere that like their headquarters are up in the north of Italy, like places like Milan.
Yeah,
and especially Milano. They're involved in a lot of gyms where they wash money from. They own a lot of gyms. They're into steroids, but they're into everything.
Yeah.
But not to get off that though. Let me ask you, who's your best guest you ever had?
Oof.
Yeah, well, let's go back to the beginning. Even before mob content, like what was the first interview that you were like, oh, this is kind of cool?
Yeah, so my first one early on. So the one, trust me, I have no superpowers. But if I had anything close to superpower, it would be like guess would be it. So it was always good at like punching above my weight. So I had two of my favorites earlier on. I had Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V on.
Yeah.
And I had it, and I actually interviewed him at the wine library where he grew up and where his father's business is. And what is amazing thing about him is I get there, and like there's literally like hundreds of people, and I'm waiting to interview him, and he kept saying to me, "Sorry, one more." I'm like, "What are you saying sorry for? I'll wait till Tuesday to interview you." And he was very humble and very nice, and I interviewed him, and I almost irked him a little too because I was like pigeonholing him as a Gary V moniker, and he kind of says that's kind of my thing, but I'm Gary Vaynerchuk, a businessman. That's how I operate. So I got a lot of learning from him about social and that kind of stuff just from that interview. My other favorite interview was Jordan Belfort. So
okay.
I'm with my wife now, but my girlfriend at the time, and I'm meeting him at the Macanudo Bar club. And I'm like, I'm about to have a fucking cigar with Jordan Belfort. Like, take a year off my life.
Yeah.
Like that's so he gets there, and the first thing out of his mouth is, "Oh yeah, I used to be an investor of Top of the Sixes, the new Havana Club." I didn't even throw around, but I'm like, "Oh shit, really?" I'm like, "Oh, let's grab a stick. Let's," and it was an audio only back then. So my thing, he brings his friend with him, who brings his pregnant wife, So she goes, well, we can't go in because I'm with them and we can't be around smoke.
Right.
And I was a little green. I'm nervous. I should have been like, here's 200. Go to the hotel next door lobby, have some food, have some drinks. Let me have a cigar with him.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want to do? He goes, oh, let's go to the Low Hotel next door. So it's kind of funny. So I'm interviewing him in the lobby of the Low Hotel. I got it through these publicists that like just want us to mention their conference. So they're like kind of hanging over us. My girlfriend at the time, my wife, is filming it. So like, because I never had filmed before, so I wanted to film it. The manager is like in her ear saying, "You can't film here. This is a public, private property." And my wife's like, "Fuck you, I'm filming this." By the way, she lost it. I don't know what happened to it.
Wow.
And they interviewed him, so it was a serious interview. So I'm like, at the end, I'm like, when your boat was going down and you were up to here in water and you guys were about to die, did you guys really go back for the Quaaludes and risk electricity? And he's like, absolutely. And I should take the quote because that was a time Bitcoin was at like $900, and he basically called out Bitcoin and says it was bullshit.
Wow. Well, a lot of people say, even fucking Peter Schiff still says it's bullshit every day. So he'll never let that go. He's the one I think of all the time.
Yeah, those were two of my faves. And then one I really liked at the time, and it just happened to be mob genre, was Mike Francis. I interviewed him back in 2017, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that for sure. I mean, anytime you interview somebody who Leonardo DiCaprio played in a movie, it's got to be somebody interesting. But yeah, man, that's pretty good stuff. That's good stuff. Okay, all right. The most entertaining person you ever interviewed.
So there is this guy. Oh God, he was Brian Burkhart. He was loosely associated with a few guys that were around the New Orleans mob. I don't know about you guys. I have this thing where it's really nice to see it. I have this thing where like I'm like semi-fascinated, and I get in trouble when I call them this, but like secondary and tertiary like families, like Kansas City and Cleveland and New Orleans. I'm not talking about in the past, like recent days. So he was like an associate of loosely of the what was left, Galliano, of those guys in the New Orleans mob. And he told the story about there was a guy that like had no half body, and he lived in a bucket. Like they lived in a sack, and he lived in a bucket. And the guy literally had to be like carried around. So the guy gave the guy like a bad haircut in jail while they were in jail. And the guy in the bucket wanted to fight his barber, but he couldn't do anything because he was in a sack and in a bucket. Even to this day, it was one of the funniest interviews.
Sounds like Oscar the Grouch.
It hurt me. I laughed that hard when I think about it. So Brian Burkhart was one guy that was funny. It's kind of funny because I don't talk about this much, but I only got like 3 calls on my podcast to take those down. He was one of them. So one of Galliano's guys or somebody in that area got to somebody I know and goes, take that down. Which I'm not like I believe in freedom of speech, but I'm not gonna get beat up for like 39 cents an AdSense. So that was one. I did something on Buffalo that I had a really good connection on this guy that was ex-life. He wasn't in the life, but ex-life, and he knew a lot about the dynamics of Indagata, the Rizzutos, Buffalo, and I kind of reported on something, and I got a phone call the next day to like somebody I know and trust. I'm like, that went down. So I got a few that like, that I got some calls on. And I had some conference calls with the FBI, which is a whole nother discussion, but that was fun.
Well, what do you think about that? Touching on that, because there is, well, I'm going to put one person in particular in my head. I mean, there is like a certain reporter, author that's out there, and he does these uploads on YouTube where he's placing people actively in positions. He's even going so far as to congratulate them for stepping into those positions. And what do you think about stuff like that?
Yeah, so there's kind of 2 parts to unpack that. The first is and I showed him my content. Even when I was still doing mob content, I kind of had a cutoff where I said I will not talk about anything current, any current guys. And it wasn't just like, not just because I was going to get beat up and that was an option, because when I go to Jersey, I ran into some people I covered. But it was more just, like they're living their life, they're doing their thing. My job is to not escalate or put more eyeballs on there. people are weird. Like they might call the cops. Like you don't need that kind of smoke. So I kind of get turned off by anybody who kind of talks a lot about current stuff and supposedly is like in the know. Like the other part is like you can go to Bensonhurst now, you can go to Dyker Heights, you can go to North. Like there is probably at best, I'm talking like on a good day in all of Bensonhurst, no more than 10 made guys. Dyker Heights, no more than 10. North Jersey, no more than 25. Well, your area is different, Whitestone. But what I'm getting at is the fact that somebody, a made guy nowadays, is calling you up to give you insider information. I just don't. I'm not knocking anybody.
You believe that?
Believe freedom of speech.
You just got my attention on that. Would you believe that?
Yeah, I just don't believe it. It might be misinformation. And number two, there's really not that many made guys around. Like the few that are around, I just don't buy it.
Yeah, you rang my bell on that one. I don't mean to interrupt. I don't, and I don't like talk about active people, but there's a lot of guys out there that claim they talk to made people out there. One so far to say that he talks to 7 made people out there, and total bullshit. Yeah. This guy doesn't talk to anybody. Believe that.
Well, real quick, Frank, I got a call once, and it was about something I had a little more knowledge of. It was about somebody in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and they didn't know I was related to the person. So they're giving me like all this info, and I'll tell you 2 stories. One was it turned out to be false because I knew.
Sure.
So I think some people want to be important and they want to make themselves feel good and feel they're more important than who they are. So I think the people that do call them, I think they're calling in good faith. I think the reporter is probably getting the information, but I don't think they're not doing a great job at saying, you know what, calling bullshit. But there was one time I did meet somebody and he knew a lot about the Riggy family, and he knew a lot about like my brother-in-law's family, knew a lot about these people. Yeah. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? And it turns out it was a guy who rolled on John Riggy and his son-in-law, that Sean whatever, that supposedly I don't believe it, that Creo was gonna have killed. I had lunch with the guy and didn't even know it, and then when I found out later, I was like a little kind of disgusted. So I kind of changed my views a little bit on certain things. Again, I think informants, I'll stand by this. I do think there's a spectrum. People think, people believe, if you're a little you can't be a little pregnant. I understand that. But I do think there's a spectrum. Like, can you really knock Billy Catolo for going after the guy? No. Number 2, and Frank will speak to this better than me. In that mob life, it's full of technicalities. The wrong word means maybe getting shelved nowadays, but in the past get you killed. So if you're not a made guy, and you didn't take an oath, who's your loyalty to? So like I kind of, and then number 3, God forbid there was a PEDO ring. I want 10 informants. I want to find out who the scumbags are and get them killed. You know what I mean? So like I just take a different stance on those things, but also I don't like to talk about any current activity. And number 2, who am I? How the hell do I know? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I didn't know.
For my own curiosity, Tom, and I don't do it for a reason. Because I never wanted to be a reporter anyway. Like I like finding old stories, finding intricate, weird things and putting stuff out there that hasn't put out before, taking walks around neighborhoods, whatever. Plus where I live, it doesn't help. But I could probably name 4 guys that are, made within my area off the top of my head right now. But you kind of made it sound like there's more guys where I'm from than in that area of Brooklyn at this point.
Well, there's a reason for it. So number 1, Bensonhurst, change in terms of people who live there. It's like 40% Korean. So right off the bat, I didn't say Staten Island, right? A lot of those guys went to Staten Island. And then Dyker Heights, you got a few people, but those people were already there. Nobody moved to Dyker Heights, right? You got like the Persicos and, like certain ones that are still there. And I'm not saying anything that's not known. So it's just the difference of Whitestone, let's say, versus Dyker Heights. People moved from Whitestone from Astoria. People moved from Sicily to Whitestone. Right. And you have a conglomerate of, you know, a lot of Gambino, respectfully. You got some Genovese guys there, and you got a lot of guys from the other side. So that's why I think you see a higher concentration. But to see that concentration of really inducted guys in an area, I'd be shocked if it would be north of 10. This is my thoughts.
I mean, the mob presence in Whitestone, as far as like hanging out and going to these coffee shops, that's new. It's not old. People living in Whitestone that wanted to get away from the hustle and bustle and want their kids to grow up in a certain way. That's been going on for years.
Yeah, it's never been a social club neighborhood. There'd be a coffee shop.
No.
It's never been like, this is just basically what you said. This is where the guys came to buy their nice houses.
Yep.
Yeah.
And their kids to good schools. And then there's a coffee shop here and there, but it's nothing like.
No, I know. I've been in one years ago. Like, when I mean years is when I was on the street, and not too far away from getting arrested. So I'm thinking maybe 98, and that had just opened by somebody who had done a long, I'm not going to mention him either, who did a long term, and he was part of the Sicilian faction of the Gambinos. I don't know if he's still alive or whatever, but he had a place there, and that was one of the first of its kind. Before that, they owned businesses, but they were like superettes, little places like that, and they were affiliated with a Captain India. I think he's dead now. It don't matter. That would be Patsy Conti. He had a lot to do with that faction right in Whitestone, but that was a long time ago. Now is it turning into some place where they hang out? I guess I don't know.
We also had 2 or 3 key foods in Whitestone, I think.
Yeah.
At one point.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that, but I know
in Whitestone and then one right on the border in Flushing. So there was no.
Well, there's 2 things I want to bring up. Let me bring up key foods in a second. But first is there's this young kid. He's got to be in his 20s, and he has an Instagram account called Visit_Sicily. So he encourages people to visit Sicily. He's a Sicilian culture guy. He's got like hundreds of thousands of followers. Young Sicilian kid. He's doing his thing. Get social media stuff, you know. And now he's hanging a lot in America. So he's going to different places, Villabate, etc. Right? He did a show within the Castellamare del Golfo social club in Bensonhurst. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, there's no way if there's a maid guy there or a mob guy.
They were a bunch of mob haters anyway.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter. I know where that club is. Half of them.
You know what I mean? Like the fact that kind of club has.
I don't think my family ever been invited to a Castellamare's club party or a undercover fascist, if you ask me.
Well, that's a whole nother.
That's a whole nother show. Not all of them, but most of them.
Yeah, they go by town. Like the one I belong to. My family's from Vecchia, Italy. There's a social club in Elizabeth, but it's all old people. They don't even want young people, right?
They're the same fucking clubs that used to invite Rudy Giuliani to his fucking.
Yeah, and then there's one by me in Western New Jersey that mixes the towns, more modern. The social land club landscape change, but the mob social clubs are no more. So in terms of key food, right? When I think of key food, I think Conti, I think of Western beef, I think Castellano. A lot of people talk about the Castellanos. The other Castellano, Peter, the one that owned Western beef, they had 10x of the money that Paul Castellano had. And Paul Castellano was really wealthy, but the other Castellanos, they kept their name, were much wealthier.
I knew some of them too. The Castellano.
I think the company's called Taps, right? For Conti.
Hold on, guys. Let me say hi to some people before they fucking kill me. So I was
real quick.
Jesse asked an important question. Let's not forget. Well, you guys go ahead, but let's keep that up if you can.
Where's where you're from in Italy a big deal? Just curious. Yeah, why is it a big deal?
Frank, you want me to answer? Or you want me to answer?
Me? Yeah, you can answer that because you know better than I do.
So Italy got unified late. I think it was 1860, if I'm not mistaken. Garibaldi unified. Before that, it was city states, 21 city states. So just imagine the United States, but New Jersey, it's its own country. New York, it's its own country. So cultural differences kind of came about by each of the areas. So I'll give you an example, language, right? So in our dialect, if you're supposed to say work in Italian, it's lavore. If you want to say in our dialect, it's fatica or fadia. In Frank's dialect, it's Trevecchia. So my point being is the languages are different, the food is different, the subculture is different. So when you're kind of from different areas, you're very protective of that, especially historically. So you tend to be very proud of where you're from and less proud where somebody else is from.
And one more thing, and the women are all crazy, just like everywhere else, like you, Jesse. Yeah. Me anywhere in Italy, just kidding. But anyway, let me say hi to the lefty, Cindy.
Really
Chris.
quick though, on a side note, Duck said something, and it's actually, I've never actually seen a death notice for Patsy Conti or any acknowledgement that he's even dead.
I think he's 100 or
so. If he is alive, I mean, he didn't look like the most healthiest guy in the world, but if he is alive, I guess he would be in his 90s.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, I have a couple of guys, and then it's all you.
Go ahead, Frank. I'm sorry.
Augusta, Ducks, Ro, she's the best. Always, Ro, always send them love, Ro. Mr. Nadu, who else did I forget? I forget George, and we're good. And Capello. I don't know if he's here. Chris Capello, good guy. Always sending love, and it doesn't matter. You all do. So let's get back to our show. And what are we up to now? What do we got? I got more questions, my friend. What's the guy who you were most impressed with?
That's a good one.
Who disappointed you? Who disappointed you?
So say Frank.
People, aside from Frank, no, people are not going to believe this.
I believe it.
We were both not well. I won't say the C word, but it was during the pandemic, so I don't want you to get demonetized. When I was interviewing Sammy, anybody who knows me or watches the show, it's like almost weird. I just care about the business end of things. I really think you can learn like how they operate, how they do things. I think it's harder to be a mafioso than it is to be like a regular business guy. So like the fact that guys came over, no command of the language, no command of the laws, put something together that created organizational structure, that requires talent and that requires business acumen, right? You could argue, well, put a gun to your head, you're going to buy from me. Yes. But this thing's been around since like the 1200s and in the US for over 100 years. So for me, I have a business fascination with it. So when I interviewed Sammy at first I felt first he was given like kind of candid, I'm not an expert interviewer, but I'm pretty good. I'll ask open-ended questions or ask questions in a way that forces you to kind of answer differently. I didn't like the fact that he was given some canned answers like that's why you listen with 2 ears and one mouth. And I'm sitting there like, bro, how many times have you said that, And then the second was I'd ask him like kind of basic business questions that I really thought he would I really wanted to know about again, I'm nerd with this stuff. Yeah, I wanted to know John Gotti's management style, his leadership style. Was he a micromanager, right? Did he micromanage what the rackets from his capos? Was he hands off just as long as you brought your booster, whatever that was? And and they would go, well, what he did wrong, and he just he had his answers before I asked them. So I didn't like that interview as much as I wanted to like it, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I heard a lot of people say the same thing. They didn't get the answers they wanted from him. Regardless, though, he is who he is. I'm not going to take that away from him. But yeah,
Apostle Patate brought up a good interview I did.
Yeah, I remember that. I watched that actually.
So I interviewed Ro Madonna, and I don't know. I'm missing something, and maybe you guys, maybe more Brett than anything can help me with this. I really try to get both sides. I just never, you're not going to interview a mobster who's active, or you're not going to maybe the defense attorney doesn't want to come on because he doesn't want to. But I never really had somebody from the other side who was affected by an informant or by their family being away. So when she reached out, I believe she reached out in good faith. I still do.
Right.
And I interviewed her, and I gave pushback on one thing. I guess she felt Panisi played a bigger role in her father's being put away. I respectfully disagreed. I think he was a nail, but not the nail in the coffin. And that's the most shit that I got an interview for. I put it on my membership. It's still there. You got to sign up for a membership, but I got a lot of heat for that from the people that were anti-rat, which made no sense to me because I was actually trying to give a voice. See, now that's where I also try to listen to both sides.
Listen, maybe this is not the right person to come out with this, Tom.
Yeah.
For me, I'm not trying to kiss anybody's ass on at all. But how do you feel about the Korea case? That fucking case stinks.
Yeah. So
aside from what his case says about all rats.
Listen, I'm just I like to be just transparent and share what I'm thinking and not bullshit sugarcoat. I actually do believe that for what Dominic Cree was trying to do was, let's be honest, we're all kids in the 80s, and there is a trial with an Italian, all of a sudden they're mobsters, right? Number two, and drop a 1 in the comment if you did this. You hear an Italian get arrested, and what do? You type in their name in mob just to see if they're mob. And I'll give you some examples. There was a huge drug ring that was caught up in Staten Island. And Fred, if you could help me with it, super Italian guy, like super Italian. And I Googled his ways, seven ways of Sunday to find a Cosa Nostra connection. I couldn't. Like, I wanted to find it. I was gonna write a story, post it just so I could find it, you know? So we want to kind of believe that these guys are all mafia and that kind of stuff. So if you're a juror listening to this or watching this, and there is a case, it's like, you know, it's like all of a sudden you're guilty. So it's one of those things. Sorry. Oh, sorry.
Let her go, bro.
It's bedtime. They're getting ready for bed. So it's one of those things that, you know, people, you know, it's almost like if you're Italian and you're in this situation, it's, you know, were they perfect guys? No, but I don't believe that they committed that crime. I think the case against them was weak, and I think for that particular case, it should have. And I think it's one of those baby out with the, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, let me go back. Well, I think Tommy, you frozen?
Can you hear me?
Okay, there you go. Let me go back to we were talking about one of your interview subjects a couple minutes ago. I think it's probably two things. One, obviously, because of who you used to do a podcast with.
Oh yeah.
But other than that, I think it's less about you and more about your interview, like the person that you were interviewing. Maybe she wasn't the best representative of her dad. Maybe because I remember watching it, and I don't know if I don't want to say anything.
I don't give feedback. No, the people felt she was maybe mentally ill.
Yeah, I don't know mentally ill. Maybe
I spoke to her, and I think she came on in good faith. I'm not like a psychologist. I wasn't able to determine her mental faculties. She was a little unhinged, but she's pissed about her father.
Right,
you know?
right.
So I don't know if, like, you know, I don't know the nature of her relationship. I just know that was her father. She wanted to share her opinion. And what I was trying to illustrate is I really do have an open platform. Just because somebody will talk to me because I interviewed informants and not share their case on my platform, that's up to them. I respect that. But if somebody does, I have the same open door policy. Sorry, guys.
Right. Yeah, and I just wanted to watch because I don't want to talk down about somebody but it definitely looked like something might have been going on. I don't know why. Aside from her being obviously upset that her dad is in the situation.
Yeah, but you want to know the truth, Brett, and
that's not your fault.
No, I'm always one to feedback. People like you know, like growing up, we heard the term mafia cash. Oh, he's got money. Yeah, he's got mafia cash, assuming they sell drugs or have big money, that kind of stuff. But here's what people have to understand: good, bad, or ugly, right? Not everybody's Escatos where they were at Tammany Hall and they. Sorry, I'm on a live, guys.
Let me guess you joined an androgynous. Let that person go, bro. How much you want?
So like, you know, it's not like, you know, like, and I know, like, believe it or not, the more successful mobsters that I knew growing up had kids that became doctors, lawyers, professionals, had nothing to do with the life. They did that as means to an end. But the truth is 98% leave a trail of bodies behind them that are not dead, but are alive. They don't have their father. They don't have financial resources. They don't have, you know, meaningful relationships. And she might be part of that. You know what I mean? Meaning, like, it might be she might have had some tough times, and that may be how it is for some people. We can't, like, cherry pick what you know to choose. You know?
Yeah.
David, I agree. David Price.
I think that was your fault, by the way. I think that's more on them. But that's probably the perception that they have. Like, oh, you shouldn't have did it because you look at her, whatever. You know, to me, I'm just like, all right, whatever. I mean, cool to hear from his daughter personally. I thought it was interesting.
I look at intent, and I did the interview in good faith. I wanted her to get her word out. It was probably one of the, like, it literally was the interview that got the most headaches on, to be honest. So I just put it behind the wall and forgot about it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I gotta go. This is from Maureen. She wants to know the story behind Boster. Are you the Boster guy? She asked.
Well, no, I was on Lee's podcast, and I
That's
was arguing with
legendary.
somebody, and like enough was enough. Like again, like everything else, that whole stuff. Like,
Right.
listen, I got a few bucks, I got resources.
Yeah.
When all that stuff was going down, I was almost like disappointed in a way that like it was all bullshit, because it was like we're not doing the YouTube. I'm 49, like 49. We're not doing the YouTube thing. You're not threatening me. You're not threatening my family.
Of course.
I had eyes on him for a few weeks. I knew what the shot was. I could talk about it now. There was somebody that was in his chat that claimed to be from North Jersey. They were from the Philly area, and they were willing to hopefully, for his case, help him out by coming to see me. So I had to kind of keep eyes on that, and I had resources behind it and stuff in place to protect me and my family. I'm not that stupid, but it was almost like enough's enough. It's like, I do the whole, like, if you talk to the guy personally, he's actually like, was a nice guy to me. He called me after. Yeah. Like, I'm not doing that,
Exactly. And, obviously, you don't miss this genre that much.
No. Like the other part is, if somebody's not willing, listen, these are all supposed to be street guys, right? It's either come here, take the simple assault charge, or shut the fuck up. Like, what are the
other? This is I don't want to ask this one, but it's been floating around this week.
Ask it.
No, it's not nothing personal yet.
No, I need the good stuff. I got to get back in the game,
Yeah. Well, this is what's going on right now. Content creators and people outside the content, and people who were in the know, and some content creators that are better than others. But John Gotti, is he still in the life? Is he still?
I say hell no.
You say no to that. Okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you why. I remember a story that somebody from Whitestone, he was scheduled to get married at Russo's, and ironically, to a Catalano. It fell through and had a hefty down payment. Hefty, like 30 grand at the time in the 90s down payment. And he came to me. He thought I was a little more connected than I was, and says, "Hey, like, I need some of that back. Can you help?" So the person I did know from Brooklyn, I went to him and I said, "Hey," like I asked him. I said, what do you got to take? I don't know these guys. You got to take 50%, 30%, whatever you got to take. It's better than nothing. And when I went to him, he says, first of all, he's like, that's John Gotti's place and the guy he's with. And, even if I got something for you, it's not going to be much. And I'm going to take half of a half. So I went back to who I went to, and I just said, nothing I can do,
Right.
So I just have a feeling that he has like legitimate business interests and legacy stuff, that he made money over the years, that he doesn't need the headaches.
Yeah,
he built a beautiful new condo apartment complex, by the way.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like Russo's is even like connected now. I'm just saying back then.
No, I know.
Like it was public that it was with John Gotti and all this other stuff. It's all public information. Google it, paste it,
right.
whatever.
Well, yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
So and again, like you look at like outcomes, like you look at like different mob bosses and different whatever. They made money back then. So I don't think he's hurting for money. I don't think he needs the headaches. And what is he gonna do? He's gonna like head up a crew. Like the Sicilian guys, they're all from like Torretta and certain cities. Like they're just different culturally. Like they're not. I don't see it.
124 people. Please hit the like. Appreciate you being here with us tonight.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
So I don't know if you ever touch, or if you want to touch on this comment from George.
Yeah. So John and I, we were doing the show. We were kind of cruising, and I kind of use the analogy. And I'm not saying it was a brilliant show, but just because you remember the show in reference, brilliant but canceled. It was just like a good concept, like kind of like. Me, I'm like the media guy, the interviewer. He's like kind of like fresh off the witness stand. And the show was really supposed to be, and it kind of like lost its way. We're supposed to be kind of two Italian guys that went two totally different directions and kind of talk about how we see things from our perspectives and attached mob stuff, business stuff, and the like. And obviously got hijacked because everybody wanted to know who was made and was my uncle really made and was my cousin connected. And it lost its way because we were just all over the place. So we had a really nice run. And there weren't even like a ton of cracks. It's not like in retrospect, it's like, well, really, he was a jerk. It just, we just had like fundamental differences, right? Number one, when we meet up, you can't be late with him. I'm always late, So like, just to give an example of fundamental differences. So like when it came around to strategy of the show and growing, we were polar opposites. I'm like, I got to go on every show, like the Jeff Nadeau model, because it's traditional media. You scoop up some people here, you scoop up some people there, you scoop up some people here, and you aggregate and you build your show. He wanted more, like RJ and Michael to kind of hang out and have it come to us. And I get it, make a few bucks. And that started making some really good money, but not enough to really dedicate the time I needed to make it worth it. So I really needed this shit to make some real money. So therefore, how to apply different practices. I helped get him on Business Insider that got millions of views at the time, still more to this day. Vlad TV, they reached out through the show, not through his. And, we did the men's health, all this different stuff. And we're following the traditional media model. So we just were like at odds on where the show was going. And, the only thing I'll say is he did do a rug pull. I would have handled it differently. But no ill will, no behind the scene drama. No, he quit because I went on one show. It was a philosophical difference. And because of who he is, and he's very disciplined, I'll give him that, he's binary. Hey, this is no longer for me, and pulled the rug. And we had to unwind quicker than I would have liked to. But there's no ill will. I haven't spoken to him. He hasn't spoken to me. I'm not going to say a bad thing about him. So we don't have anything to say,
Right.
Hey, he's pretty consistent. He's one of the most consistent in this whole genre, actually.
No, he is. He is.
He's pumping out a lot of content. I mean, he's got a weird way about him, but
Yeah, no, he's good. Shout out to Aralata's book. I read it a little while ago.
Yeah, I still got to get it.
Pretty good book, actually. Very good book. One of the better ones I read in a while. What's next for you, Tom?
Well, so I do have Mobsters Inc. There is a channel out there called Mobsters Inc. I bought it a while back. And crazy enough, my niece is through marriage, my niece is a patent attorney. So I'm like thinking, Monsters Inc. It's like huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me check out Mobsters Inc. It wasn't available. So I got the trademark for Mobsters Inc. I have the channel. Nobody else can use it. And I kind of wanted to do like a documentary series, higher end interviews, all that kind of stuff. I would you probably see that in the second half of this year. I just have to get my regular ducks in a row. And I say this all the time, like this YouTube stuff is weird and crazy. And I'll say why. You get one of two type of people in general. You get the people that didn't make a lot of money out there. So if they're able to scrape a few bucks together every month, it's a lot of money for them. And God bless, I salute. It's a lot of money for them. So they're able to make their whatever they make. And it's good money for them, right? Or you get like the Patrick Bet-Davids that have FU money that they already kind of made their money. And it's like, let me just do this as a side thing to make this a business because I have the resources. I'm dead smack in the middle. I'm still in my earning years. So I can't punt like 6 months of like getting something going in hopes it's going to take off. I'm going to try to get my other assets up, my other revenue, my income up. And when the time strikes, I really want to go heavy on Mobsters Inc. And I want to do it correctly. That's on the mob stuff. For New Theory, we do have a studio. Frank and Brett are welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, we're going to take you on that offer.
It's in Springfield, New Jersey.
For sure.
I have the book over there.
1 million anniversaries. Thank you so much.
I interviewed Tom Tershik. He is the only man to ever walk around the entire world with his dog. It took 7 years. It took 7 years. He's the 10th person to walk around the world, but he's the first to ever walk around his dog. He started in Hamilton, New Jersey. He walked all the way to Austin. He wanted to get a dog for the trip. This puppy was going to a kill shelter. He took it, and he went around the world, the only one ever to go with a dog. That's the kind of stuff that interests me.
That's cool.
So I had him on. I was very fortunate and interviewed Mark Laurie, who founded Wonder. He was a guy, diapers.com guy, jet.com, billionaire, got bought out by Jeff Bezos. I interviewed him, and it's really interesting because it wasn't in a studio, but he was in his penthouse apartment as a billionaire, and he did his interview standing up. So, like, that's a power move. I'm watching. I'm like, oh, wow. Shit, I better hurry up because he's standing. So, like, these are the people that I want to rock with, not just the mob stuff.
So did you build a studio, or is this a space that you rent?
It's a space that I rent. I was gonna try to buy like a smaller building and like build out like a co-working space, a podcast studio, and I'm gonna spend a lot of money to make not. So right now I'm working with it's called Flexworks, and they're in Springfield, New Jersey, and it's a beautiful, beautiful
nice
place. And I'm doing different kind of interviews, which I'm really happy about.
That's good. It's good.
Brett, can you ask Tom a question and Bet David land?
Stop. Who the fuck's in that?
You're not a fan?
No, he is. He does a great Bet David. I think he does.
Yeah, I did a good impersonation of him.
Do it. Let's go.
I can't do it on the spot.
Dude, Tom, when did you tell?
I gotta clear my throat. Let me see.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do it so bad now, but
put your avatar on. I know you gotta be ahead in.
So Tom, I want to get into something really important right now. So you were on the podcast last week that you had. You had this. Pull up that clip of this guy that he had on his show last. Do me a favor. Pull up that clip. Yeah, that one right there.
The Buster.
This is the guy Tom Vecchia. I want to bring him on the show. We'll fly him down to Fort Lauderdale, and that's
that was
on the spot.
That was excellent.
No, it's really good. He does a great Sammy too. If you the Sammy, that means the best.
I never heard of Tom Vecchia, Bo. I never heard of that guy, Bo. He said he interviewed me. I never heard of him.
Yeah, I told him not to ask me those questions.
I never heard of Tom Vecchia, Bo.
That's too funny.
I don't think we did that interview, Bo.
Yeah, it's fucking great.
That's what these people make me do all day. It's fucking stupid.
It's worth it.
Joe Root, Jacket, Ducks. What's up, buddy? What's going on?
Also, really quick too, and I don't know. I don't want to usurp your questions, but I'll give you kind of like some of the other, not red flags, but some of the stuff that kind of took the wind out of my sails for the mob stuff. So for one, I interviewed Totorina's son. And it was the first interview that he ever did in the U.S., first and only. And we did it in Italian. I didn't speak English. So I had to hire a translator, subtitles, and do things correctly. Cost me, I lost money on it. And I launched it, and this is supposed to be like the mob genre.
Yeah. And
it wasn't like it didn't do well because it was poorly done. It didn't do well because it's really not the mob genre. It's almost like, oh, I want to learn about physics, but you're going to interview Einstein's son. Like, Totorina was probably arguably the most Italian mobster that was the most powerful in history of any side in history.
Yeah.
And like when I interviewed his son again, and allegedly, because if you're a made guy, it's illegal. 41 bis laws, Mafia Association. So he's not going to admit to being in it, but allegedly he was inducted. Probably as a strategy. Frank can go into why they induct their sons over there. But I did that interview and it was like, who is that? I 8 out of 10 people were like, who is this? And then somebody in the comments earlier, I interviewed John Dickey. John Dickey is like the world thought leader. Like if there's like a mob, like consultancy,
the best in his field.
It's like John Dickey, Tony Nicasso, Anna Sergi, and and I'm not knocking Jerry Capisi in any way. Jerry Capisi wouldn't even be given a free ticket to attend.
We got the book guys here in this country too. The Five Family guy? What's his name?
Sullivan Robb is another legend.
New York Times reporter. He's one of the best too. I give props to a lot too. Is DeStefano. I think he's pretty good at what he does.
I interviewed DeStefano, a good guy.
Yeah.
Tony's a good guy. But my point being is I kind of did the John Dickey interview. Again, I'm not expecting explosive numbers, but nobody knew who he was. So is this really the mob genre? It's there's I'm interviewing John Dickey and I'm getting a pizza emoji in the chat. So I'm sitting there is this the playground that I want to be in?
A pizza. I don't mean to laugh, but I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Oh, but see,
Yeah.
Brett, you're one of the few guys that
Hey,
like,
Matt, what's up, baby?
that like understand the debauchery, but like no, like you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
know, right? I mean, you maybe appreciate a good pizza emoji now and again. I get that. But like the guys like John Dickey, and I'm getting like pasta.
Yeah, no. That's a
It's like-
different. John Dickey's like they just put it this way. When we talk about guys who do mob content, I put them in categories of that are familiar to or baseball. Okay, we have the major leagues, we have AAA, we have AA,
Yeah.
we have single A. Can a single A guy go up to the major leagues one day? He can, but not right now because he's not bringing that kind of content.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the Dickey guy or the girl who covers the Nadralia back in Italy,
I interviewed like Anna Sergi, and I'm like, no, this is funny though, because I interviewed Anna Sergi. We had a date set, and she wasn't available. And then, meanwhile, and this is a totally separate, no harm, whatever. Panisi wound up interviewing one of his only interviews. I'm like, oh my god, that's weird. It is what it is, right? Because I have different questions, and I'm not that guy. Oh, you interviewed him, so I can't. Fuck me, like
yeah, nah. These are the people that National Geographic, the History Channel will call and they tell them, "Look, I don't have time for you."
Oh, Chris Todd, I'll get to in a second. So
you know what I mean? That's how good they are. They
well,
just
so I'm messaging her, and she's like on holiday in Italy because they take off for the whole month, and like she was like from where my brother-in-law is from in Calabria, and like and like in Calabria, like surnames or last names are really big. It's Sicily a little bit, Napoli a little bit, but like where your last name in Calabria, connected or not, like means something or not, right? So I said who my brother-in-law's family was. She knew who they were. We had a good, we had a great interview. I believe there's a high mafia. I still believe that to this day. She disagreed with me right on the show and was like kind of abused me in her nice way.
Right. Oh, she does that.
Yeah. So, but like, and again, I'm not expecting like 100,000 views because not everybody knows who she is.
Right.
We can do better than a pizza emoji in Boston. So then I'm like sitting, I'm like, is this really like? I'm putting a lot of like, I'm like putting a lot of resources out to like maybe not like where it needs to be. So what's my lane? Where like then I had to find a figure where like this guys, maybe Frank is different, but you and me, Brett, we're not mob guys. We have to research it. We gotta listen. We gotta learn. And I was like kind of a secondhand guy, and I should be in that life.
Yeah,
So,
well,
like,
it's definitely harder for a content creator to.
Oh, very hard. But
talk about this because a lot of times too, even when you're spot on, people are gonna be like, well, what does he know? And even when you guys do, are more spot on than some mob guys sometimes. You know?
Mob
guys get it wrong too a lot of times.
We have to work to get there, right?
Yeah,
Brett does work, right? Whether you like it or not, Jeff Nadeau is doing work, right?
Of course.
I know maybe Canarsi's not your cup of tea. Jeff Canarsi does work. So people are putting in work, and I just lost the desire, if you will, right? Now, I was like, let me do business content or marketing content because then I could speak to it first person. Like if I have to do a monologue, I could speak to it as an expert. So that was kind of another underbelly as to why, like I was doing really premium stuff and it just, and like I would argue, oh, well, you didn't market it right or nobody likes you or whatever it was. It just was like the algorithm and the market size was just like not big enough for me to play in. And that was another reason.
Yeah. My thing from the beginning was like, it's called New York City Crime Spot, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of my stuff is not organized crime at all, because I have a general interest in New York City, Long Island, all of that whole criminal history. The biggest video on my channel is not even an organized crime video.
Yeah.
So, so I've always tried to mix it up, do the walking tours.
Yeah.
Also do the little documentaries. And then, try to do journalistic things, like try to find interesting stories, I have all these, like the Stacks files, if you've ever seen that on my channel, and all types of stuff like that. I try to find interesting stuff. I try to talk to family members.
Yeah.
Try to do things that aren't on YouTube. A lot of the stuff that I've tried to do is like, all right, search YouTube. Oh, no one's did it. All right, I guess I got to do it then. Even if Just
Well, there was, sorry to cut you off, but there was so to get, I never really talked about this specifically, but I wanted to, there's certain people in this genre that I want to interview in the studio. You guys know it's a different dynamic,
Sure.
it's a different discussion point. We can Patrick and Dave get the energy from each other, and it's gonna be a little different than what we're doing now. And I wanted to do Lee Cole in studio. I think that'll be fun.
that'll be great.
We got to do full body.
Yeah, definitely.
I lost weight, so God bless.
Bodies.
So, like, I want to get you guys in there. Jeff Nadeau's coming in, but there was a reason why I wanted to do Jeff Canarsie. One is I don't know, maybe like people look at people whether they like them or don't. Sometimes I meet people and I get curious, and I want to like he used to abuse me and he used to hate me. Like I'm talking like one day he put up like my backup channel and shows Vecchia's irrelevant and like had no views. It was like my backup channel that was this audio, but it was all a word on the bridge. And I wanted to know, like, what makes you tick? Like, why didn't you like me? Like, I want to I'm like fascinated, you know. And Jeff and I consider a friend at this point. We had
Good deal.
I have when you guys come, we have our tradition.
People like fucking train wrecks. They like drama. They like.
We go there, and then we go.
That's what they like.
We go to Vinny's Pizza after, or Basilica, and then we go to Tonino's for a cigar, right? It's my triumvirate when good guests come. But there was another reason why I did it. I wanted to see, like, we can argue who's what, right? But Jeff, people know about probably the most in terms of the OG of the space. I'm talking about, like, old mob genre, right? And I wanted to see how many views it would get because it would represent the real number of the mob genre market, whether they watched it for a minute or whether they watched it for an hour and a half. And it's about 30,000 views. And that's kind of what I thought it would do. I didn't think it'd do 5,000. I didn't think it'd do 100,000. So now if you're in this market, I'm a marketing guy. Now I know this real true mob, genre universe is probably about 30,000. Now the question is, can I operate in this to get maybe 25% of those followers? Can I get 5,000 a month from those followers? How do I get that? Merch, and that's how I think. And when I realized that, and it's not a knock against Jeff, if anything, I thought his numbers did exceedingly well for this space. When I realized there was only 30,000 people in the space, I was like, because if you think about it, who in the true like mob genre space, other than like Sammy and whatever, who has over like 50,000 followers? They just don't. It's a small market.
Yeah, no, I hear you. This,
well, I think Nadeau, OC Shorts, they might be the only that have like 80,000, 90,000, something like that.
And OC Shorts, he's from the other side. He does his shorts. He's been consistent. He's been at it. Jeff's mixing it up. Pretty big interviews. Consistent on the lives. But like that's 2-3 years. Like my daughter, when she was a little different, but when she was like 6 months old, my wife at the time opened up a TikTok account for her, and she just didn't this little like video got 15 million views, and she and she had to monetize like a fucking idiot, and she has 102,000 followers to this day overnight. So like in the social media space, and I'm not knocking anybody, but like it's not that many followers in the grand scheme. You know what I mean? There's guys that like open up like fish eggs, like Kinder eggs, and have like so like you want to be a bigger fish in a smaller pond, but nothing's wrong with that. Or do you want to be a smaller fish in a bigger pond? Yeah.
Right. I try a lot of things to do. I try to make I guess what I would call like legacy videos that I know at some point, I know these videos are probably going to get maybe close to 1 million views.
Yeah.
And these are videos that right now they sit at 100,000. They keep gaining views. They keep gaining. Yeah. And I know over the years they'll keep, like the Goodfellas market. I mean, I hate to say it, but I own it, The whole Goodfellas market on YouTube, whether it be going inside the actual Roberts Lounge, what it is now, reviewing the food, going inside Henry.
It's like an Asian spot or something, right? I watched that video.
Roberts Lounge is like a Jamaican spot, spot. Japanese is the suite. All these other locations, all these biographies about the Stacks file. So I'm trying to corner these little markets within the genre and make videos that I know are going to over the years always be there. Because who doesn't love Goodfellas? Who doesn't love that? And there's a good chance if people type this stuff, they're gonna be led to my channel.
But Brett, one of the big things that changed over the last maybe 3 to 4 years is in the past you would create evergreen content that lasts forever, right? So you would have the Roberts and whatever that is, right? And in the past, you would create this content, and it would just—it's like not free money because it's not big money, but it would provide views, like you said, right? And it still does. And I'm not saying it doesn't, especially
right.
content. But in the past, you would create this content, set it and forget it. It's evergreen, and it would almost be like a recurring view magnet for you and increase your subs. When the algorithm changed, they now want you and need you to keep posting.
Oh yeah.
If you have a beautiful Roberts, Goodfellas Lounge, if you stop posting, that dies.
Oh no, I know. Yeah.
So now what they're doing is you're keeping you on the tit. You know what I mean? Like, and the other part is the shorts algorithm and the long form algorithm are two totally different things. Now that provides opportunity to maybe attract people, but you can't. So now, like, let's say you're tired. You're like, you know what? You and Frank disband the show, and you want to do shorts, but you want to make a few bucks off your long form. You got to continue the long form. And once I realized that, I'm like, oh shit. Am I committed to doing the long form? But then you do stuff like you do, and you pivot to different type of shows. I think you guys got one of the better shows right now.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's work. I mean, we're far away from being where we want to be, but we're going to try to be.
Well, we've been doing this since October. I mean, I can't really.
Yeah. It's new.
Definitely. That's all I've ever done is long form stuff. Yeah. In reality, I have a short attention span. That's why I didn't do great in school. I got all this mess of ADD. But when it comes to making content, like I can't do short stuff. It has to be like long. Yeah. It has to be like a long documentary or like a long walk through the neighborhood and all this other stuff. So I'm still doing that. But like I said, recently those videos that like 4 in particular that are over a year old, tens and tens of thousands of views over the past 2 months.
So this is interesting. So the other thing is what I try to do, and I don't want to get it right, is people always wonder, why did you interview this person and that person? I don't see it, right? The reason why I get to people early is if they pop or there's news on them or whatever that is, I'm the first to find out because my stuff will go up. So I'll give an example. I did an interview with this woman, Benita Alexander, that you see on Netflix, The Bad Surgeon. Did you guys see that?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Who turned out to be a fraud. So I interviewed her really early. So
I didn't feel bad for her actually, and I
got a lot of hate like for her, and she got beat up a little bit for being naive and stupid. I like Benita; she's a friend. Was she a little naive?
She was a little annoying too. She was like one of those. I got myself a surgeon. Look at me. Just it turned out that he didn't even plant carrots.
So the reason why I interviewed her because I thought it was a good story. So whenever she gets Bad Surgeon, it goes up. Whenever it was on True Lies, it goes up. Whenever that, it goes up. And that's a misses too. Like a lot of guys that are wasted time. But when Lee Cole went to Sammy's place, that shot up. So it gives me kind of like a real time
classic.
It gives me like a real time feedback on like who's hot and who's not. And I've been wrong a lot of times, and I've been right on a lot of times. There's a guy, Sean Kelly. He's got the Social Happy Hour. He's got like 11 million followers right now. I interviewed him very early. You know what I mean? So now, I've interviewed some people that really kind of popped off. And I because you never know. I don't know who's going to get big and who's not. And I got a lot of shit for a lot of the interviews I did of people that people thought were nobodies, and most of them were. But some have paid off, Yeah,
I'll tell you what. You want to talk about people that I thought weren't going to go nowhere. They got not nowhere. I didn't think they were going to have. That's not bad wording. Weren't going to be successful as they were going to be. I could start with Lee Cole on that one. I
think Lee was smart getting out of the genre.
I agree.
Well, I'll give an example. So I did this guy Hyphonics. George, you must know my channel. The guy has 6 million subs. He does these jump scares. So like you guys ever hear of Omegle?
What is it?
You guys never heard. So Omegle used to be you would.
Oh yeah, the video chat thing.
Yeah. So you would go on this video chat.
Yeah.
So like, let's say it was only 2 screens, and I hit a button, and like anybody in the world could pop up. If I want to talk to them, I match, great. If not, I move on. So he'll like do these jump scares where like his head would pop off his body, or he would do all these crazy things, and he was doing it for years. Omegle went away. He does another one now, and he's got 6 million subs. So I wanted to talk to him, and it did pretty well. It got like 20,000 views. I thought it would do better. But those are the guys that I want to talk to.
Yeah.
Like literally 6 million subs, you know?
Yeah.
Corruption Connection. Shout out to Corruption Connection. He just interviewed Sean Kelly.
Oh shit, Sean. Did you go out to Vegas to see him, or did you do remote? Because Sean's from New Jersey originally, believe it or not.
Well, Tony Corruption's out. He's out there, so he probably did do it in Vegas.
Hey, I think I saw this guy's show. I think I reached out on the comments. I'm a new theory. I'd love to collaborate with you.
Yeah, we did a collab. We're from the same area, basically.
Did you do it in the field?
Huh?
Did you guys go like out in the street?
Yeah, walking around the streets. Yeah.
Oh shit! Where?
Walking around Flushing.
Oh shit!
Talking about some gritty Flushing street history.
I love it. How did your Luigi piece do?
It's weird because it was blowing up and then it just like fell off a cliff. Right now it's almost 20,000.
That's not bad.
No, but I thought it was going so quick. I mean, the comments were insane. I mean, I lost so much faith in humanity, but I guess no one did it, so I figured I had to do it. I mean,
I went to a holiday party, and I was with my buddy, my wife, and his girlfriend, and we went to it's weird. It's like let's say a building like this, but it goes through the street, and inside it was warm, and there's like restaurants in there, like almost like like a pass through. So I was by there, and I was right around the corner from the Luigi thing happened, and I was like, shit, I want to go see it, and I'm like, I would have time, it's late. And then sure enough, next day your video popped up, and I'm like,
nice.
That was cool.
Cool. Thank you.
Does the jury convict him, Tom?
Interesting. Yeah, I enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, because capitalism has to make sure the real people in power don't want this type of thing happening. The real.
Then back to a question I was asking me: do I think that the government gets involved the people, coaching them to say what they want? Has it happened before? I didn't see it myself in my case. Has it happened? Possibly. I mean, I don't know. Do I trust everybody out in the government? No, I don't.
Listen, the weird thing about the Luigi Mangione thing that bothers me is I think, at least for me, I mean, I pretty much think that killing people is never good. But there's serious debates going on with people that you would think are normal, but I guess they're not. So what do you think? You think it was okay that he killed this guy? Like people are seriously debating this on TV, and I'm like, all right, this is a little strange. I get where you guys are coming from, but I don't know. Did you pick up on that too?
If you notice in the beginning, just like everything else that happens, they were trying to politicize it. So at the time, the left was very pro Luigi because they were anti-business, theoretically, and the right was this is wrong. So I remember what's his name, Shapiro.
Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, so I had a long day, man. Ben Shapiro did a piece on it, and it was obviously very anti-Mangione. Right. And for the first time ever, when you get a chance to look at it, he got eviscerated in the comments. So it was literally the first time, outside of maybe the George Floyd killing, that both sides were we kind of agree.
Yeah, that case is going to be decided by jury selection. That what a good lawyer is going to focus on jury selection, and that's what's going to decipher that case. All you have to do is get that person whose family member lost a house or couldn't pay for something and had to go to work because they were sick all the time. And they're gonna stand out. They're probably gonna say, I don't have the balls to kill anybody, but you know what? I'm glad somebody did.
Similar to what George King says, kind of in the same realm where it's maybe that's in the back of my head. So, but then I'm like, I don't know if I want to bring that energy to the fucking world right now, you know. So
Why not?
it's
And,
different
George,
people
up
that
to a
really,
point,
like,
yeah.
you know.
Up to a point, that's more like a socialist kind of way of thinking.
Yeah.
But the thing with the, I mean, the thing with the medical industry, it touched a lot of people, even people with money. You know, it's not.
Right.
Well, I was surprised. So I follow a lot of like the Italian American channels, you know, just whatever's out there is probably, you know, not as many as you think. There's probably a good 10 to 12 that you should follow on Instagram or whatever that is, in short form or post. And I would say like the Italian American community, as far as what I've seen, is also kind of divided. Some are like, he's Italian American, we got to be here for him. I may not agree with what he did, but we got to be with him. And others are like killing's wrong. Like, what's wrong with you? If anything, it makes us look bad. But like, there was this, I don't know if you guys remember El Primo is a magazine that's online. It's older one. And they actually did a counterpoint on like next to each other. They found them both fascinating arguments, but people legitimately like support this guy.
Yeah.
I could see it.
It's definitely different when people are in media and in supposedly polite society. Like, so what do you think? It's good? Or?
Yeah, but I don't know. Like the kid's like Ivy League trained, like made a homemade gun, and he kept like his passport, he kept his cash, he kept his fake ID, and like the narrative he wanted to get caught. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. If he wanted to get caught, he would have went and evaded 72 lights, go into the park, get out of there. Like, you know what I mean?
And then there's a conspiracy that it wasn't even him, but you know.
Those people are coming out anyway.
It's all like, we're so like this country's in bad shape.
Yeah.
That somebody,
Drum,
like kills somebody or unalives them. Sorry, it's on YouTube. Unalives them on YouTube.
I always say kill. I never say that.
And like, it's not like, it's like people like are somewhat okay with it, you know? And it's like, it comes down to politics. It comes down to, you know, the way people think, the way, like, you can't even have discussions anymore. Like, there's family members. I grew up a Democrat. I'm a registered Democrat. I consider myself kind of center left. But I can have a political discussion with anybody, and I respect how you feel. I just ask you to respect and listen to me to give my point. But there are times, you know, extreme left in my family that you bring up something, they'll kick you out of the house, you know? And that's the other part, too. I kind of have a little bit of beef with the Italian American community. Not that we want to be monolithic and be like, hey, here's what we're going to do. But I think as Italian Americans, what are our core values? Where do we all kind of align? And then, like, as a group, we could be a lot more powerful if we did. But we're like a shit show. You got the Staten Island Italians who are super right wing, to the liberal Italians who are like uber educated, and like there's not a lot of middle ground. So I hope there'll be like some middle ground someday in that.
I think Luisi focus on who's you talking about? Bobby?
I've interviewed Bobby a few times. Interviewed Paul Tenzo. I like Bobby. Again, just you know, it's one of those things. I don't know what he's up to. I don't know what happened to Paul. I know they broke up, and I don't know what happened.
I like that. Hyperistophilia at finance.
So this is interesting. So Tommy Manzo just got sentenced for this.
Hey, Tony.
Right, yeah.
I was going to do a show on him. Like, I don't want to get back in on that. So he got, you know, sentenced to 5, whatever it was. Then he got sentenced, going to run concurrent. So it really doesn't matter. I was surprised about a few things about the case. The first is, hey, Tony. The first is I'm surprised he fought it, because Perna just said, listen, fine. He did 2-3 years, whatever. Right. Tommy Manzo had an ego. He fought it. I thought that was dumb.
That's the one they had on film, right? He runs at him at the.
No, the one. That's the one that. I
thought there was a film of it happening, the beating.
No. There was 2 incidences. One, they went into their townhome, like beat him up and like stole stuff. And like one of the guys was, don't mess with people from Patterson. Like, what?
Okay,
yeah. Like, really? Like, so that's a one. And the other one, Perna himself, which I was surprised about. Perna did it himself, blackjack in the parking lot. So a little known fact about my show is I was still kind of with Panisi, but we're kind of like slowly, whatever. I got a pitch from a publicist, and I interviewed Dave Canton, the guy that got beat up by the mobster. But
Oh, no way.
he didn't know who I was, and I didn't disclose it until after. I didn't sandbag him. I didn't bring it up. And then we talked about it, and he gave me some like kind of insider knowledge. But the second thing is like the Manzo's, that place was supposedly like with the West Side. So I was very surprised that he went to Lucchese's to get it done.
Hey, let me see. Let me see something.
Anybody got questions out there for Tom? Let him have it. You got him over there. Go at
Talking
it.
about this one though, no?
Oh, I didn't know this was caught on film.
Yeah. This is Gangland News.
It was during the day?
Yeah. See?
Damn, he's giving him a pounding.
Then he runs
That's
off.
how it usually works.
Huh?
How? Like how? He actually walked. That's not saying much for
And that was Perna, right?
Yeah, that was it. That was a this is so anybody wants to watch it. That's from actually no, that's that kid Joe Puzzles channel. Lucchese member John Perno assaulting David Canton, Gangland News.
Wow.
Yeah.
That wasn't Chicky.
You know, listen, this is going to be like, I don't know, just take it for what it's worth. But like up until the 90s, and well, Frank knows this intimately, but Bert could probably relate somewhat. Up until the 90s, like if you knew somebody, like it wasn't a big deal, like, oh, so-and-so fuck with me, and they would get like tuned up. It was like semi-normal, like in that
I think it's
world.
still going on. Don't.
No, but what I'm getting at is if I'm like in high school, college, whatever, I'm like in like a young guy and I'm getting like screwed with, and I know Frank, it wasn't uncommon for you to lump him up or send somebody over to lump him up. It was bothering me. And once you see I'm connected and you'd leave me alone, right? It was like kind of like not normal, but semi-normal. You do that now, you're looking at like 7 to 10 years. And like real OC, like longer.
Yeah, but at the same time, they didn't stop giving beatings.
No,
I'm not saying that I know anything.
No, but that's more like, let's be honest, it's about money. Like I'll give you an example. I knew somebody who was like really connected, not made member, but associates, and they were connected, and they had like an internal dispute within their family that something happened that was like really egregious, that like they didn't want to go to the law. So like now, and it came from not from the old man, but the son. So it's a long story. So my point being is they went to who they knew, and they basically wanted them to like intervene. And the guy was like, we don't really do that anymore. And it was like, what I'm getting at is like, if there was something going on, I would say probably up to maybe 2005, maybe even 2000, you can go to Frank if you were connected, by relations or an associate or something. If something that went on that you weren't like socially unjust, they would help you out. If I had a problem now and I go to my guy, he's going to laugh at me because it's not worth it. Like, it's not worth it.
You got to be careful, like it. With
But that's what I'm saying. It's not worth it. So, like I'll give you an example. Like, I know Frank laughs when I bring him up, but Luigi Roncambali, right?
Oh God, we have a clip of him. Show him a clip of Luigi.
I saw that.
We do. Did you see that? That was him behind that guy Catania. I'm telling you.
That might be the best thing. Like that's mob. Like that's what needs to be done. Like that's good shit right there. Yeah. So there was a cop in Newark. His sister-in-law was married to kind of like a business guy who was connected. The guy lost his shirt in a pretty big game with the Cavalcante. With some other like kind of half a wise guys or whoever. Not even wise guys, I think just guys, gamblers. And he gave up his wife to, pay off the debt. Now, when the cop brother-in-law found out about it, he had three options. One, go to the decavs, which was local, but he was worried about owing those guys. The second was go to the cops and go legally, and he didn't want to do that because what they do, get arrested. But the third, he go to Paisani, which is, Castellamare. He went to your guy, the Quena. So he went to him, and they sent Luigi to go kill him, and he did. Like back then, the mob, like out of honor, would do that kind of stuff. Like, and I want to give you like the craziest example, but let's give it. Let's just say like somebody's daughter was SA'd and they were connected. You go to the mob now, they're not going to do anything. They're going to say go to the cops.
Right. Right.
So my point is, what's the use, right? Like I always say, the mob where they messed up is they didn't pick a lane. Either be fucking hyper local, don't move out of the neighborhoods, own your neighborhoods, but these are your neighborhoods, and you're hyper local. You control maybe the drug distro in the area. You control, protection. You control whatever that is, right? Or you go international and you make a fuck ton of money on drugs. They didn't either, right? The mob stayed away from the cocaine boom, and they disbanded. So like things. Listen, that's why I like the business end. Things need utility in life. Things you need to have a reason. You need to be there. Like I don't think Frank rolls if he does 15 and there's something for him to come out from. You know what I mean?
There's numbers. Everybody has a number. Believe that.
Well,
Everybody has a number. Some more than others. It's just there's numbers involved in that. There's a lot of different scenarios, Back to Luigi, though. What was it, Frank? If you knew a cooperator was lying at trial, would you tell the government?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a good. Wow, that is a good question. I don't know. I mean, and I'll tell you why. Fuck. That's a tough question because you're trying to get out at this point. If you want to mind your business, it's like if you see somebody beat somebody up and you know it's wrong, do you go to the cops? I'm not asking you a question with a question. I'm just saying if it has nothing to do with you, sometimes you're looking to get you fucked up already. You're looking at not by telling the truth or fucking rat, whatever. You want to get out of jail. But at the same time, fucking, you're not going to go out of your way because it might fucking piss these people off. I told you before, I don't think, not all the government is fucking, we have bad and good in both sides, And if you piss them off, the next thing I know, I'm doing fucking 20 years with that guy just for fucking messing up their case.
Yeah. Well, I want to corruption connection. So, like, I interviewed Michael Vecchia, and I read the book, obviously, and I didn't buy that Miguel Sindona went to him and said, kill Giuliani and kill this one and that one. Miguel Sindona sat with the Gambinos, like the real Gambinos. They sat with prime ministers. They sat with, like, he doesn't need Luigi to do his shit. I know Mirabile was pretty connected as a captain, but I just don't buy some of his story as well.
Yeah, I mean, I seen Vecchia on a show, and I don't have anything against him. I think he's great, but I mean, he basically bought into Anthony Salvatore Luciano Raimondi. Yeah. He was basically vouching for it. Yeah, no, he seems like so.
I said this to him, so I'm not speaking out of school, and I am and still a Michael Vecchione fan, and I'll bring up a cool interview that I did with him in a second. But a friend of mine was involved in something in 1995 in a park where somebody was unalived. And four of the guys, but two of the main guys that were on trial had a pretty high-ranking uncle in the Gambinos and had nothing to do with it, just happened to be the nephews of this captain. When they went to trial, they were throwing the book at them, and they would bring up the mob every time they could. Now, this was not a mob hit. This was not a mob, rub out. These guys, these were 20, I think it was 18 at the time, so these were like 18-year-old kids. And I asked them, I'm like, what was that about? Like, I'm friends with him. Like, why did you, like, what was going on? And they got, like, convictions, but, like whatever. But it was, like, kind of you got to do what you got to do. He kind of said in, like, the nicest possible way. And I was like, man, like, that's fucking bad pool, man. I don't know. Like, I was a little shocked at that. And, but so it was interesting enough with Michael Vecchione. So you guys remember I don't know if you ever covered this, Brett. The guy who was stealing the body parts and the tissues, Master Marino.
Say it again. You broke up for a second.
There was a guy out of Brooklyn who was stealing people's tissues when they died, like your grandmother would die, and they would take out their bones and put like PVC pipe in instead.
Wow.
People would die and take like their tissues. Like
that's bizarre. No.
Like, yeah, there's big money in that, right?
Mm.
So what he did was, and to this day, there was no mob involvement. His name was Master Marino. He was a maxillofacial surgeon, had a drug addiction, lost his license, so he got into the tissue business. He was paying off funeral homes to go in, take shit from the body, replace it, and paying the funeral directors cash. And he was doing this for a while, making millions, right?
That's wild.
What happened was he was selling the tissues and the bones and everything else. He wasn't testing them. So who ended up with HIV? Who ended up with hepatitis?
Wow.
Who ended up with cancer? And Michael Vecchia prosecuted him, or was part of the team that prosecuted him, and wrote a book about it. He called him the most heinous guy out of Brooklyn, which is not a nice statement. I happen to be friends with the guy's ex-wife, and I had them on my podcast for the first time. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, 1,200 views, right? So
See, that's the crazy thing, yeah.
Her name was Barbara, and she's a personal friend of mine. So, like, with her, she said she didn't know. I'm like, well, why was there freezers that are locked in your, in your kitchen, and like, whatever. But yeah, I love her to death, but maybe she some inkling. But that was a crazy, crazy case. The guy eventually goes upstate, and what did he die from? Ironically, bone cancer.
Fuck, good for him.
Think of how many people he scarped.
Yeah,
it's one of those things that you're like, oh, that guy. They called him the body snatcher. There's been a ton of stuff on him. But Mastro Marino, Italian guy from Brooklyn.
Yeah, the weirdest one I interviewed, which I'm surprised he said yes, because he didn't do one for a while, and I guess he said he liked me, was the Cannibal Cop, if you remember him.
Oh, shit, really?
The NYPD, the Cannibal Cop. You remember that guy, Gilberto Valle?
Yeah. What was he doing again? Because I remember
he was so he was really into like the sickest form of fetish. Like, they go in these weird online chats. They talk about, I'm going to kidnap you tonight, and I'm going to eat your flesh. All this weird, crazy shit. So he was He was a cop, and he was coming home. His name is Gilberto Valle, Valle. Yeah. So his wife is like, why is this guy staying up all night? So she puts like the spyware, like keystroke reader on the computer. Basically, she finds out that he's having this fantasies about kidnapping her with this other guy, taking her upstate, but HBO did a whole documentary on the case, and they called him the Cannibal Cop. Obviously, New York Post had a field day with this whole day, all the great headlines.
Damn.
He ended up getting off because they were able to prove that he was going to go to jail for a long time, like kidnapping, cannibalism, planning all these things.
Cannibal Cop.
They ended up getting off because, like, in the end, some of the stuff he was saying, like, oh, we're going to bring you, I have this home upstate, and we're going to bring her there. We have the big ovens. My apartment building has these great big ovens. And it was all made up. It was all bullshit. But crazily enough, today he writes these extreme horror books. He's an author now. There's a word for the type of genre that he writes in, but it's like the fucking most extreme of the extreme horror. That's what he's up to now. He works a regular job. Seems like a nice enough guy, but it was interesting. Definitely interesting interviewing him. Yeah.
Wow.
Tomorrow we're covering a vigilante. We're talking about Luigi over there, Mangione.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're covering 1984 and a famous vigilante. We don't want to.
Oh yeah.
Go too. You put it on the thumbnail already. He kind of looks like Caesar too. You see that?
Yeah, that's right. He does.
He's like a makeover Caesar. Jesus Christ.
Let me ask Frank a question. So we kind of talk a little bit about like how the mob changed, right? In your day, when did you cut off? Like, what was your kind of last active year?
As of being what? Getting in trouble, getting stupid.
You're in the street. You're in the street. You were around. 2
months. I think we cracked some guy over there with a bat.
No. I'm saying that. What year was it?
I'm just saying.
What year was it?
2002.
Okay, so here's my question, right? So like Brett and I, we're like your Gumbot, and I don't know. He comes to me and somebody like fucking essayed his girlfriend, and he knows I'm connected to you, and I come to you and say, hey, like this happened. The guy's in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Do you lump him up, or you're like,
lump him up? No, fucking we end them.
So why do you think the mob got out of like the social justice business, in your opinion?
I don't know if they did. I mean, we don't know that. We
Yeah.
don't know that.
Yeah.
If I know the people I knew back in the day, and somebody came up to them and say, "Look, my sister got violated," they're gonna do what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
If they ain't killing anybody, like they say they might that day.
No,
That's a serious one.
I know.
I might even go to prison today for something like that.
Well, I know.
I'm not gonna say let's go get this motherfucker.
Yeah, I know well enough that the beating still happened. Like I know. Like I Staten Island. Like every day goes by. Like I know a lot of stories that like in real time that either suspected, but they pissed off a wise guy. I mean, I do know a story where somebody did crack a wise guy, and they lumped him up pretty bad, but they didn't kill him.
Yeah, back in the day, we didn't have that. I mean, the worst scenario that somebody had with a woman was slapping somebody's kid that was connected. But that to go to that extreme right there, I didn't see it. I'm pretty sure. I think it was Scarpa's daughter who said one time some cab driver tried to have away with her. That's scary and within itself. It didn't happen where I was from.
They killed the guy, right? It was like a limo driver.
I don't know what happened, but that's usually what happens. Yeah. That's a big one, man. That's a big one.
Let me ask you both a question as an insider and outsider, and I'm an outsider. You hear these stories of things happening to connected people, like, oh, he touched that one so-and-so, or he smacked that nephew, or like they're fucking connected. Why? Like what I'm getting at is like I'm a regular person, right?
Right.
These things don't happen to me. Like they don't like. I'm not like my sister's not getting beat up, and I'm not like. But these Italian families that are connected, weird shit happens to them, and they're connected, so they should be like theoretically a deterrent for these things not to happen, but it happens to them. If that makes sense.
Like, well,
you know what I'm saying?
They in neutral places like a nightclub or something, where some guy gets hit over the head with a fucking bottle or worse, or stabbed or whatnot, and then just to find out it happened to Vito Guzza. I mean, I'm pretty sure he would have never fucking had gotten into it with Quack's son if he knew who it was. Yeah. It was just too late. So those are places where you're like, oh wow, what the fuck just happened? Yeah, but I mean,
the Scarpa one was just I think it was like a cab driver or something. Yeah, I think they did end up.
He had somebody bring to school, and he took advantage. But again, like your father's Greg Scarpa, like probably not the person to do it to.
What's scary? How many times did that guy try that shit? He probably didn't even know that was his daughter.
Yeah. Then again, I think Linda Scarpa said her dad like beat up one of her teenage friends because they smoked weed together. She said he put the kid in the hospital. Like
but
a 17-year-old.
So also, like, again, I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but like his son died from like a bad drug deal. Like, again, you're Greg Scarpa's son. I know, like, I'm not disillusioned that these guys don't do drugs or they're not into drugs. They are, but it's just, I don't know.
I'm surprised you didn't interview her, Tom. Did she not do that?
I knew what she was, Shiro. I knew her pretty well for a while. I met her through A-Light. And I had it all set, and it fell through for a reason I don't remember. I know she is. I knew her pretty decent for a while. There was like these like housewife events. She was like on that scene. She found like, I don't know, it's gonna sound weird, and I'm not saying anything bad about her, but like a lot of those people in that space behind the scenes, because you get to know them, like they don't have like a lot of like they're trying to get a book picked up and like a lot going on and this and that, and like you're sitting there like your father probably made like $20 million over his career. Like, where was the money? Like, I don't know. Like, not knocking her out. Forget about her for a second. But if you take like 20 of these people we talk about, their grandchildren, unless they like pick themselves up, don't see a dollar of what these guys did, then what was the use,
I'm sorry, real quick. Can you put up A-Boy's question?
Yeah. I got like a couple minutes. I got to wrap it up though.
Yep. Frank, thanks for answering my question. If you wouldn't tell the government you knew the truth about a crime, if I don't have nothing to do with that crime, but I might have known about it, it's not my. I'm not a cop. That's their thing. They got to investigate. Now, if I have something to do with it, yeah, of course. I'll give you an example. There was a guy that got stabbed in a nightclub. A bouncer got stabbed, and it was always thought that the guy who was in jail for it didn't do it. They knew about it. It was a state case. The feds knew about it, but they never did anything about it. They put the guy in jail for 25 years. I didn't know his involvement in it. It was neighborhood talk that this guy didn't have nothing to do. I didn't know personally. Was it my place to say, well, hey. 10 other people went out of the way and said, hey, the rumor is that this guy did, not the other guy. It wasn't my place to do that. I'm not, unless it had to do with me. You know, I mean, do people in my position decide to tell everything they ever knew about anything, even not involved with? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're out there. I wasn't that guy.
Well, I want to bring a point, and it's not trying to disrespect anybody. I just want to bring a point. So I was watching Dom Sicali's show and Joe Barone, and Joe Barone was a long-standing, government witness or foreman or whatever he was doing. Mm-hmm. I'm just telling you what they said. They said it publicly. I have no insider knowledge other than what was said. And Barone was like, I didn't really want to jam up Dominic because I liked him and I didn't want to hurt him. I didn't want to hurt his family, right? So what scares me, and I never spoke to Joe Barone in my life. I'm just going by what I've heard, guys, before getting shit, right? And it's like when the feds come to you, they're like, well, what do you have? Because they have to get stuff from you, or they might direct him, say, get me this, fetch me this, so it's directed, or what do you have? So now you have like an informant cherry picking what information to give. So the information is given, so like one person gets it and what doesn't. Why should the informant be the arbiter of like this information? And that, to me, that's kind of scary. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's almost like I didn't inform on Dominic because he was my boy. And luckily, I guess the government wasn't going after him.
It's okay with that. I don't know. That's on them. That's what they do their job. Then we have a little bit of a task after that they put us through. Our job is not to investigate. That's their job. Matter of fact, when you're getting the brief by the government, the one thing they don't want from you is to do what? Ask them questions. They ask you the questions. Okay, yeah. So who knows if they will investigate something.
Let me ask you a question, and I figured out Sammy because I don't buy it because I'm not going to lie on my own crew, and then later on he kind of did some of them. I've heard of instances where deals were cut, were implied. They can't put it in writing. That like they go to Frank, and Frank's like, you know what? If you bring up Tom and Brett, I'm out, or I will go quiet. I will blow. Like, and then they're like, you know what? Fine. Like, have you ever heard of that? Or did you ever try?
I did it. I told them if you bring these people up, I'm not. And they, two of my brothers, one I got immunity for, one I didn't. And they told me, look, it's all right. We don't. If they did want, they would have said, well, that's too fucking bad. We're done. They didn't tell me yes or no. They just told me.
So what does immunity mean? You could share a story. But
they can't do nothing to him with the story. My brother was a bookie. I said he was a bookie. People went to bet with him, but the whole neighborhood knew that. You know what I mean? That's all I knew about it. The other brother, I didn't know nothing about it because first of all, we couldn't stand each other to begin with, so it was no big deal. Then there was a buddy of mine. I said I ain't gonna. If you bring him in front of me, and God's my witness, it's in paperwork. I'm not. It's done. We're not gonna do nothing. It's done. And one of them said, well, don't he have a? He's got protection on his 10-year bid where other stuff, if there was an oncoming RICO and he's not going to, they're not going to charge him with it. I said, regardless, I'm just not going to talk about him. And up to today, I'm no longer in that fucking realm, but it's the truth and people could look that up too.
But you could also share stories and not have to face that.
But I had people they didn't care about too, so it was fucking ridiculous. I had things that I was involved with that they were like, I'm not saying they didn't care. They used, I don't know how they investigate their things. That's not my job. Like, let's say if I tell on somebody and I think, well, he never got arrested, I'm thinking they don't care. But then 5 years later, the guy's wearing a wire on fucking other people because they did that with the information I gave him. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I asked Judge Gleason during my interview with him, and I'm like, listen, you were a prosecutor, you were a judge, and now you're in private practice. I said, I don't forget how we asked it, but I'm like, and I'm gonna go, bro. I said, how did you reconcile letting Sammy go, kill 19 people?
You want to get the stuff ready?
And he kind of positioned it that almost like an academic answer.
Get it ready.
Analysis, and we saved a lot of other lives by forgiving his 19. And I don't know if I bought that. I was like, I don't know.
Hey, let me ask you something about that. You think the bull 19 stuff actually means 19, or he's
yes?
I don't think it's a coincidence.
His birthday's on the 12th or the 13th, so that's
I don't think it's a coincidence. It's in poor taste. Like, listen, I believe in free speech. I believe in a right for Sammy to earn a living.
Right.
But like, not like kind of the way he's like, it's on Jeff Nadeau to like put his like. I just, it's not just the thing I don't get about the mob genre, where it really jumped the shark, is when the big accounts started like noticing the small accounts. Like, to me, I didn't even know who Sammy knew who Jeff, me, and these other people were. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even think they knew.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and it's like, no, I can Jeff, and Jeff's one of the bigger players in the space, and Sammy should know who he is, I assume. But in general, like, these guys, the big accounts knew what the small guys did, and I think that's where they screwed up. They should have left it alone. You always got to punch up, down.
Me and Frank were talking about that the other day when Sammy did that.
Yeah,
I'm going to put you on your knees and make you. And we were thinking about, the young women there, like watching him, and he's saying this crazy shit. Remember, Frank?
Of course. Well, he was fisheye.
Okay, Sammy.
All right, Sammy. I didn't know you were into that.
And then I blew his fucking head off. Okay, Sammy.
Oh, terrific. I got another question. All right, guys, we're unpacking.
Yeah. Listen, Tom, thank you. You got anything coming up? Anything good?
I got some cool interviews. A guy who literally walked around the world. With his dog. Only wanted to do it in studio with me.
I like that.
That'll be out next week. I just interviewed this guy, Josh Peels, amazing musician who actually launched today. He does some tricks in studio for me, so I love magic. I got a few other ones coming up, so stay tuned. Stuff that I want you to watch and be able to listen to the people's stories and learn. We'll get you guys in soon, and check out the New Theory podcast. And I appreciate you guys very much.
Thank you, Roro. Appreciate you. Keep dropping a link.
Thank you,
everybody. I want to thank everybody
Thanks.
who's been joining the lives. We've been averaging like 120, 130 people every time we come on here. Can't complain. Appreciate you guys showing up. Please leave a like on the way out. Please subscribe. Roro's dropping Tom's link to the New Theory podcast.
There you go. Thank you, Roro.
Hang out for 1 second, Tom. Everybody have a good night. And me and Frank will actually be back tomorrow. I'm getting a little sick of looking at Frank's face, but I think I can do it one more time this week. And
oh, you see, we got somebody jumping off the bridge.
Oh, that's you. I'll see you later. All right, yeah.
See that?
I hope there's a tourist over there to catch it. Is there something actually there?
Yeah, right there. You see it?
No, we can't see it. No.
Oh, fuck. No. Yeah.
All right.
I'll show
All right,
you.
everybody. Have a good night.
It's probably that fucking kid, Jeff. Not Nadeau, the other one.
All right. Time to go.
After he found out his man left him in Philly.
All right, you guys have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow night right here on 52 Topics.
Guys, good night, everybody. Thank you. Joe Rudin.